Now, the president also made news on tariffs in the last hour. And to that point, Canada's manufacturing sector shrank, in fact, for a seventh straight month in August as U.S. tariffs weigh on its economy. Its companies are now facing, though, that new uncertainty, right? After a U.S. appeals court ruled Friday that most of U.S. President Donald Trump's tariffs are illegal. That order is unrelated, though, and keep this in mind, for its tariffs on steel, aluminum, cars, and auto parts. Meantime, Prime Minister Mark Carney has lifted retaliatory tariffs on the U.S. in hopes of actually reaching an elusive trade deal. Joining us now is Flavio Volpe. He's the president of the Automotive Parts Manufacturers Association and a member of the Canadian government's Council on Canada-U.S. Relations. Flavio, it's been a minute. I haven't checked in with you this summer, so I'm hoping you do give us a status report just on the trade negotiations, right? And specifically when we talk about these sector tariffs, because that's been where the Canadian government's put a lot of their focus.
Yeah, Paula, great to talk to you again. I think you put it right. These tariffs are having an effect on Canadian manufacturing, but included in that is all those great American companies like General Motors, Ford, and Stellantis that are invested in Canadian manufacturing, that buy steel from Pennsylvania and resins from Texas, are all feeling the same pinch. There was a deadline, of course, that came and went August 1st, which Canada and the U.S. were intending on finding a solution and a deal, as the White House puts this, on tariffs. And that came and went. But there were meetings last week between Canadian Trade Minister Dominic LeBlanc and Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick. And there is this beginning of discussions on the scheduled renewal of the USMCA, the three-party trade agreement between Canada, U.S., and Mexico. Maybe starting a little earlier, maybe we wrap that all into there. In the meantime, everybody who's making anything in this cross-border region, and that's in Michigan as well as Ontario on the Canadian side, are seeing exports in either direction drop by a quarter. They're seeing their price of steel and aluminum on both sides of the border going way up. And we're watching Canadians and Americans who are looking at much more expensive cars, buying less of them.
Right, but Flavio, you know better than I, it's made no impression on the White House, and the American manufacturers, at least, as much as they're taking a hit on the tariffs in terms of profits, they're eating a lot of the tariffs right now. Prices have not gone up that much. At what point in time do you think rubber is going to hit the road on that? And you forgive the pun, I'm sure you will, because you and I have been talking about this for a long time now, and those executives still do not seem to be able to bring any pressure to bear on the White House.
It's a really good question. Nobody really knows that answer, except that second quarter results for those companies, they're all publicly traded, were bad. But tariffs have been applied throughout operations in this third quarter. Third quarter results are going to be terrible. And third quarter results are going to bump up against the U.S.-China deadline of November 12th, the U.S.-Mexico deadline of November 1st. And those companies, specifically those car companies, are being very public about, well, we're eating billions of dollars in revenue losses because of tariffs, and things need to change. The White House isn't signaling that things will change, but I did gain some solace in the fact that the Canadian Prime Minister heard the president who said, oh, well, listen, we put tariffs on you. You retaliated. We gave exemptions on goods that are USMCA compliant, but you didn't. And so the Prime Minister, who's like every other world leader here, trying to figure out how to deal with a Trump administration that changes its mind from day to day, said, okay, well, let me show you that good faith. Let's start those USMCA negotiations and let's see what happens.
Flavio, I only have 30 seconds, but I have to ask you, it doesn't look good for those negotiations. Never mind the sectoral tariffs. Are we going to have a new trade deal between Canada, the U.S., and Mexico? I would argue jury out.
Yeah, I think you could flip a coin on that. The White House is bent on doing bilateral negotiations where they can bully each partner into whatever concessions they can make, and really not living up to any dispute resolution rules within those agreements or WTO. And the president said just about an hour ago, Look, we're going to ask the Supreme Court to expedite its decision on dropping the IEEPA tariffs. We're going to be in this mess for as long as the president has no other distractions.
Okay, I appreciate the candor, Flavio. We will continue to touch base with you. Thanks so much.